Since the beginning days of aviation, icing conditions have posed a threat to aviation. Developing an understanding of this threat is critical to safe flight operations. In this video, we explore flight and icing conditions, discuss traditional recommendations for reducing the risk involved, and show you Garmin features that have the potential to aid in managing this threat to safety.
Ice-contaminated aircraft have been involved in numerous accidents. Many of these were takeoff accidents that occurred due to a failure to de-ice or activate anti-ice equipment prior to departure. Part 91 of the Federal Aviation Regulations contains a section on operating in icing conditions that all pilots should be familiar with. Any ice encountered during flight, even in trace amounts, can be dangerous. It's important to understand the potential hazards of in-flight icing, ways to avoid these hazards, and how to manage the situation when icing is inadvertently encountered. For pilots of aircraft that are not certified for flight in icing conditions, you should avoid all icing conditions, and if encountered while flying, you need to exit those conditions immediately. Pilots of aircraft certified for flight in known icing conditions, referred to as FICI equipped, should still remain vigilant. Only certain types of conditions were evaluated during the certification process, and lengthy exposure to certain types of icing, or to severe icing, can overwhelm the systems designed to counter ice. Regardless of any recommendations in this video, be familiar with the information concerning icing in your aircraft flight manual. Pay close attention to proper operation of ice protection systems, and to minimum airspeeds during or after exposure to icing conditions. Adequate flight planning always plays a role in aviation safety, and this begins during pre-flight planning activities. Since most in-flight structural icing occurs in clouds that are in the temperature range of 0 to -20 degrees Celsius, it pays to determine the freezing level along your planned route. One way to explore freezing levels is to use the Aviation Weather Center's icing site, and then select the freezing level image. Here, you can cycle through times to see how the freezing level changes over the period of your planned flight. Selecting the Forecast Icing image takes you to a map view of areas where you are likely to encounter ice. You can select from various severity levels, as well as probability. Select the altitudes that you were planning for the flight, and cycle through times to see how the icing picture changes. Using an electronic flight bag application, such as Garmin Pilot, you can view airmets and sigmets for icing conditions, and see PIREPS along your route. Some important things to keep in mind concerning PIREPS are that the absence of reports in an area doesn't mean there is no ice there. It could be that pilots have simply avoided that area due to the likelihood of icing. Pilot reports are generated by, well, pilots. These reports can be a bit subjective, and light icing to a commercial airliner may be moderate or heavier icing to a light aircraft. If you see a grouping of icing PIREPS in an area, it's probably best to avoid that area completely. You should also monitor weather during your flight to see if a reroute or diversion is necessary. With SiriusXM, you can display current icing potential and supercooled large droplet, or SLD, at various altitudes. You can also monitor freezing levels, estimate cloud tops, examine METARs, and view PIREPS. Many Garmin products provide for display of SiriusXM weather, including handheld devices, the GTN family of products, and all of the Garmin integrated flight decks. Widespread areas of stratus clouds may be hard to navigate around, but due to the lifting process that forms these clouds, they rarely contain exceptionally high water content. Icing layers in stratus clouds with a vertical development in excess of 3,000 feet are rare, so a change of a few thousand feet may take your aircraft out of icing conditions. One exception to this is lake effect stratus clouds. These clouds contain a great deal of water because of the moisture available as they form when cold air blows over unfrozen lakes. You see these types of clouds in early winter near the Great Lakes in the US. Cumulus clouds can have a high level of water content, and aircraft passing through these clouds can experience rapid ice accretions. Due to updrafts in these clouds, icing conditions can be found in layers thousands of feet deep, but with far less horizontal development than in stratus clouds. Small deviations from your course are typically all it takes to avoid penetrating these clouds.
Cumulonimbus clouds, or thunderstorms, have very large liquid water content that can be carried high into the atmosphere. So add rapid and severe icing potential to the list of reasons not to fly into these clouds. Fortunately, it's usually possible to navigate around these clouds, and ATC should always allow deviations from your course to avoid thunderstorms. If you were to receive a clearance that would place you in a thunderstorm or into severe icing conditions, as PIC you have the authority and responsibility to tell ATC you are unable to comply and to request an amended clearance that will keep you free of these hazards.
Freezing rain is a significant hazard to aviation. It causes a rapid buildup of ice on the airframe, and it can flow back and freeze on unprotected surfaces. Freezing rain forms when rain becomes supercooled as it falls through a sub-freezing layer of air. For freezing rain to occur, a temperature inversion must be present, which can happen when a warm front overtakes a cold air mass. If you are in freezing rain, normally there is warm air above. Freezing drizzle typically forms from a different process, where droplets of moisture coalesce to form larger droplets. With freezing drizzle, you can't assume that warmer air is above. Under certain conditions, the process that forms this icing hazard produces drizzle-sized droplets in a supercooled cloud, usually near the top of the cloud, where larger droplets are found in any cloud. Freezing rain and freezing drizzle can cause very rapid and dangerous stall speed and drag increases, and can cause control anomalies. Regardless of the type of de-ice and anti-ice equipment installed on your airplane, these hazards should be avoided entirely. One note of particular importance is that when METAR reports show auto in the report, this means there is no human observer to augment the report, and that freezing rain and freezing drizzle can't be reported concurrently with other precipitation. Pilots should be on the lookout for severe icing when snow or snow and mist are reported for an airport when temperatures are around freezing. Even small amounts of ice adhering to flying surfaces can significantly increase stall speeds. If you were to experience in-flight icing, be sure to follow the guidance provided in your aircraft flight manual for use of the autopilot, airspeeds to use, and configurations for landing.
Okay, that wraps up our discussion of ways to reduce the risks associated with icing conditions. Be sure to check out additional information on this subject in the documents that are linked in the description for this video. We encourage you to continue your safety journey by viewing the other videos in the Garmin Aviation Risk Management series. And thanks for flying Garmin.